Live that. New to our August the 11th, 2026 council meeting for Selwyn Township. We respectfully acknowledge that we're on the treaty and traditional territory of Nishnawbe and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Let's observe a moment of silence so the council staff and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we're trying to serve. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. I would ask that all comments, questions, and answers be directed through me as the chair. This includes the public, staff, and council members. Is there a declaration for pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none. We have the minutes of July 14, 2026. Anybody had a chance to read them? Errors and omissions? Motion to approve, Councilor Boyko, Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor? That is carried. Is there any discussion out of the minutes? Seeing none. I have a very pleasant thing to deal with. I'd like to take a few minutes to recognize Gord Jopling and to thank him for his incredible service to Selwyn Township. After 38 years with the Selwyn Fire Department, you've certainly earned the retirement. Over the years, you've given so much to this community. Your commitment to keeping our residents safe, your leadership within the fire department, and the time you've invested in mentoring and supporting other firefighters have made a lasting difference. You've helped build not just a strong fire department, but a department with a real culture of teamwork, professionalism, and community service. On behalf of council, township staff, and the residents of Selwyn Township, thank you, Gord, for everything you've given to our community. You're not only a colleague, but a friend. We're going to miss having you as our fire chief, but we're certainly happy for you that you start this new chapter. Congratulations on your incredible career, Gord. Thank you for your 38 years of service. We wish you all the very best in your retirement. And I would ask you to come up to the front along with Donna, your lovely wife, so that we could get a picture and I can give you a check. All right, so we are now going to deal with development charges, section 20 hearing. And if you don't want to stay for this, that's quite okay. We understand. No, I don't. See you, Donna. A complaint has been filed under section 20 of the Development Charges Act. The complaint was filed by Cohen Hiley on behalf of BR Lifestyles with respect to the installation of a park model trailer at 78 Lindsay Road Site E21, Bailey's Bay Resort. A complaint under section 20 is scoped to consider the following three matters. 1, an incorrect determination of the development charge under the existing township DC bylaws. 2, an incorrect determination of the application of a credit against a development charge. Or 3, an error in the application of the township's development charge bylaw. I invite Chris Rhodes, Director, National Operations, Parkbridge Resorts, who's representing BR Lifestyles, to address council. I would remind Mr. Rhodes that the hearing is scoped to the three considerations I've just outlined. Mr. Rhodes.
Hi. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. As Mayor stated, my name is Chris Rhodes. I'm the Director of Operations for Parkbridge Resorts, and here speaking on behalf of the complainant BR Lifestyles, Inc. We're here under Section 20 of the Development Charges Act concerning the permit Selwyn 2026-48 and the $7,223 of development charges assessed when a Park Mullet trailer was installed at our resort, Bailey's Bay, on Selwyn, on Lindsay Road. We're not asking council today to decide what campgrounds can never attract development charge. We're here asking council to correct the way township has applied its bylaw to this permit. It's classified as a seasonal park model, as a single detached or detached home imposed as on the residential charge at the point of installation, and that's what we are looking to determine was incorrectly applied today. I'll give you a little bit of background in regards to campgrounds and park model trailers. A park model trailer is a seasonal recreational vehicle built to the CSA 241 standard. It has a vehicle identification number. It's designed to be relocated, and it's not designed for year-round residents. It's not insulated for winter, and it must be winterized in order to avoid damage. Bailey's Bay is a seasonal campground. It's closed from approximately October to late spring, and the park model cannot be lawfully used as a permanent home. The permit concerns a park model that was placed on an existing campsite, which was previously occupied by another recreational vehicle, a 1999 Northlander Supreme 34-foot trailer, known as a destination trailer, similar to a park model in size and function, but slightly narrower. Both trailers support seasonal recreational use and have essentially the same occupancy levels. It's our submission that swapping one trailer for another does not create any increase for need for services. On the first issue, the single and semi-detached home category does not fit. The township's development charge bylaw does not define a park model. It does define a residential dwelling as excluding motels, hotels, tents, truck campers, tourist trailers, mobile camper trailers, or boarding, lodging, or rooming houses, suggesting that a recreational park model in a seasonal campground should be excluded. A single park model on a campsite is not equivalent to a detached or semi-detached home. There is no study which suggests that its occupancy is similar to that. Its occupants utilize services in the same manner. Council therefore does not need to decide every question that's been raised in the complaint. Even if the placement of the unit required a building permit, a park model trailer cannot be assessed as though it is a home, and accordingly a development charge could not be issued. To the second issue, the rate is unsupported by the background study. The Development Charges Act is very clear that for a development charge to be assessed, each particular type of development needs to be identified and needs to be subject of a development charge background study. Background studies need to identify the anticipated amount for each type of development and the impact of that anticipated development on capital costs are required to meet increased service needs. The Development Charges Act requires that in Section 5 and 10 that a council must base a development charge bylaw on the anticipated amount, type, and location of development, and the increase in need for services attributable to that specific anticipated development. Section 10 of the DCA requires that a background study which conforms with Section 5 of the DCA. If park models are not in the background study, the township has not studied the anticipated amount, type, location, and impact on services. If a background study has not been compiled with the DC Act with respect to the particular type of development, the development charge cannot be issued. The existing development charge background study does not identify park models in its growth forecast. Its residential rates are built from forecasts of permanent occupancy and permanent population growth. In particular, the detached and semi-detached rate from the 2023 background study uses an average occupancy assumption of 2.68 persons per unit, despite that park model trailers are capped at 50 square meters, meaning that they're to be considered detached or semi-detached homes at a 538 square foot. These are some of the smallest homes available, and they can't be occupied year-round. The study contains no park model forecast, no seasonal occupancy factor, and no calculation showing that installing this unit creates the same capital need as adding a permanent or detached, semi-detached home. Furthermore, the 2025 background study update specifically says that park model trailers are anticipated to have occupancy levels similar to a small apartment units or should be charged at a similar rate. This study provided no data specific to park models, but highlights that the township's own consultants don't think a park model trailer impacts the service requirements to the same degree as a detached or semi-detached home.
Mr. Rhodes, excuse me, I'm going to interrupt you. What you're talking about is outside of the scope of what this hearing is for. This hearing is to determine whether or not the charge is incorrect under the existing bylaws we have. You're suggesting we're not dealing with the bylaw correctly. An incorrect determination of whether a credit was given and an error in the application of the township's development charge bylaw. So you're actually talking about something that is not within the scope of this hearing, sir.
Let me finish my submission and maybe we can reconsider that statement in a minute.
Go ahead.
Okay. To the tune that my previous statement that the background study specifically does not state that park models are anticipated to have occupancy levels similar to a small apartment matters because development charges are growth charges. They're meant to recover the increase in capital costs caused by increased service needs from the anticipated development. The issue is not whether a seasonal visitor ever drives on the road or could use an emergency service. The issue is whether the trailer adds to the permanent residential growth and capital demand for which the detached and semi-detached home was calculated. The study does not provide that in the link. To the third issue, the installation would be redevelopment under 3.14 of the township's bylaws. Section 3.14 of the township's development bylaw permits a reduction of development charges where a building or structure existed on the same land within 5 years prior to the date of payment of the development charges in respect to redevelopment. It's our position that park model trailers as recreational vehicles do not meet the definition of residential dwelling, but Section 3.14 refers to dwelling units, which are defined broadly as any part of a building or structure used, designed, or intended to be used as a domestic establishment in which one or more persons may sleep and are provided with the culinary and sanitary facilities for that exclusive use. Section 3.14A essentially grants an exception to development charges when you're replacing one dwelling unit with another. By this broad definition, anything with a bed, a kitchen, a bathroom is a dwelling unit, and replacing one dwelling unit with another results in 1-for-1 reduction in development charges payable. The park model trailer at E21 and the destination trailer it replaced, they both have a kitchen, a bed, and a bathroom. Both would be dwelling units under this bylaw, and no development charge should be accordingly payable. The requested decision for those reasons, we respectfully ask council to find that the amount was incorrectly determined and that the development charge bylaw was applied in error to permit Selwyn 2026-48. We ask council to rectify that error by determining that no development charge is payable for this park model installation and by directing the complainant to return of any amount already paid. The township wishes to create a park model category for the future. That is a prospective policy question. It can be studied with evidence about seasonal occupancy, campground capacity, and actual service demand, and then address expressly in the future bylaw. It should not be done indirectly by fitting this unit into a category it does not meet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now turn this over to our Manager of Building and Planning to outline the report related to the Section 20 complaint.
You may send us through you. A report before council today is to consider the matter of the Section 20 complaint as outlined by you, and in my report, 3 determinations that are for consideration is were the charges incorrect under the existing township bylaw? Is there an error in determination of a DC credit? And is there an error in the application of the bylaw? The issuance of a building permit is the trigger for development under the development charges bylaw, which Park Model Trailer is a manufactured building and specifically regulated by the Ontario Building Code. The issuance of the building permit for the installation of that unit on site, therefore is the trigger for the development. No DC was previously applied for on that site, so no credit was available for the removal of the previous unit on the site. And staff applied the DC charge in accordance with the council approved DC bylaw. You've got further questions?
Okay. Council's reminded the Section 20 hearing deals only with whether the DC charge was applied correctly, whether a credit against the DC charge was applied correctly, or if there was an error in the application of the township DC bylaw. As noted in the manager's report, the township DC fee was applied correctly. There was no DC credit, so this is not applicable, and staff applied the DC fee in accordance with the approved DC bylaws. Based on that, I ask council to consider dismissing the complaint. Moved by Deputy Mayor Black to dismiss the complaint.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Boyko. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll now move on to our second public meeting, and I'm going to turn this over to our planner, Per Lundberg, for the purpose of the meeting. Per.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Council of Township of Selwyn is holding a public meeting today in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act in order to consider one application for zoning amendment for 949 8th line. The prescribed notice of public meeting was provided via prepaid first-class mail to all residents within a 120-meter radius of the property subject to the application, as well as by a sign posted on the subject property. The notice was also available on the township website. The notice of circulation complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. If a person or public body would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the Council of the Township of Selwyn, but does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Selwyn in respect of the zoning bylaw amendment before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the zoning amendment, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Township of Selwyn in respect of the proposed zoning amendment before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the zoning bylaw amendment, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so. If you wish to be notified of the decision of Council of the Township of Selwyn in respect of the proposed bylaw amendment, you must make written request to the Township providing your name and address or email address. I'm just going to briefly, I'll try not to take up too much time. There may be several people wanting to speak, including the consultant for the proponent, being Amanda Timmerman. She's here from DM Wells. But just generally an overview, this is, again, it's at 949 8th line. This is a proposal to change the zoning for the site from residential type 1 to multiple residential R3 zone. The proposal is to have three unit townhouses developed on the site. There'll be rental units, so there's no lot creation, subdivision, or condo proposed. It's just straight buildings with rental occupancy. Single story as well. Generally, I find that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms to the county and township official plans. I am in support of the application. In terms of agency comments, we've received agency comments from Alderville First Nation and Curve Lake First Nation outlining the First Nation consultation process for the proponent. County Engineering and Construction, Public Works, Hydro One, Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Enbridge, and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority have provided comments of no concern. We also have a few public comments raising issues and concerns with the proposal, specifically from Jessica Barber, Rachel Brown, Kyle Ginter, Wendy Martin, the Toms family, and Ernie Trotter. I'll briefly go over those. From the Toms family, they're generally concerned with the neighborhood character, the public consultation process, site servicing and traffic. Ernie Trotter was primarily concerned with traffic, potential traffic concerns. Wendy Martin was concerned about well water and traffic as well. Let's see here. This one here is Rachel Brown, concerned with wildlife, impacts on wildlife, and the planning rationale for the project. Kyle Ginter was similarly concerned about traffic, wildlife, and the planning justification and rationale. Jessica Barber was concerned about neighborhood character, traffic, and groundwater. And those are the comments we received. Just for council's awareness, as noted in my report, a number of technical reports were submitted in support of the application, which addressed these concerns, including a planning justification report, a servicing options report, a stormwater management report, a hydrogeological report, a site entrance assessment, and a set of engineering technical drawings. These reports have been peer reviewed to the satisfaction of the township staff, as well as the road authority of jurisdiction being the county of Peterborough. Those are generally my comments, and I'll turn it over to Amanda.
Podium microphone.
There we go. Can everyone hear me okay? Live coming up. Okay, well, good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, township staff, and all the members of the public who have made time today to come and attend the public meeting. My name is Amanda Timmermans. I'm a senior land use planner with DM Wills Associates based out of Peterborough. And I'm here presenting the development plan on behalf of the developer, Jeff Cheshire, today. So the purpose of today's public meeting is to give the neighbors and everyone in the broader community an opportunity to ask questions, raise local knowledge or concerns, that things that you experience on the day-to-day, and provide comments to the township and as well as us, the developers, to consider before council makes a decision on the zoning. So I'm hoping the presentation today can answer some of the questions, address some of the concerns that we've heard already related to traffic, wells, neighborhood character, etc. So just to give a bit of a background on the property, I've got it highlighted there. So 949 8th line, literally right on the corner there, where Ward Street kind of turns into the more of the county road. Ward Street is all county road. but that kind of differentiation on the edge of town there. So south side of 8th line, it is just over 1 hectare in size, so 2.5 acres, with frontage of about 62 meters on 8th line there. And so here's just a couple pictures to show kind of existing conditions of the property. You can only see, you know, up until the existing house that's on the property from the road. And so there's quite a bit of property there in behind. So the subject property is currently developed with that single detached dwelling, and there's an accessory detached garage as well. It's serviced by an existing dug well, has a septic system, a very old septic system. There is a small grassed area kind of adjacent to the house and the garage at the north section of the property. That remains basically undeveloped. It's vacant lands. It's actually already very graded. There's been some fill in there, and it's kind of surrounded by some vegetation around the property perimeter. So the current zoning of the property only permits a single detached dwelling and existing multi-unit dwellings. So we require a rezoning to permit the multi-residential units. So 3 unit townhouses or triplexes. The proposed development complies with all of the multi-residential type. So type 3 is called multi-residential zone, including lot area, frontage, setbacks, lot coverage, as well as the parking, and exceeds actually the parking and planting strip requirements. So the zoning bylaw amendment today that we're seeking is specific to permitting that increase in density from the 1 to 3, I guess, that's permitted in a R1 zone to the 9 that we're requesting here today, as well as the private on-site servicing, and that's just a provision required by the bylaw. So this is the current site plan. It's gone through a number of iterations based on our field investigations over the last 5 years. Some comments that we have already received from the public and some neighbors that are right surrounding, as well as kind of our experience with the existing entrance, as well as lots and lots of different seasons of stormwater and flooding and rains and spring and winter and all those things. So in general, so you've got I'm gonna use this. I guess that won't show up on there. So the yellow highlighted area is the proposed new entrance. So the existing entrance is proposed to be stopped up and closed. And the entrance will be moved to basically the limit of the property on that southwest corner. And then internal lane would kind of go into the property, and then each of the triplex buildings would be kind of built in a phased approach over time. Each of those buildings has a septic that can accommodate 3 units, as well as a well. And then stormwater drainage generally will be directed to the swales kind of around the perimeter of the property. And then those will be directed to the very front of the property along County Road 18, where there will be a stormwater kind of detention facility basin. It won't be like a pond, but there will be like a depression there where the 100-year stormwaters can go in the event of one of those big storms or flooding issues. As I mentioned before, we're proposing to maintain pretty much all of the vegetation surrounding the property. I think there's some general cleanup to do from the ice storm and some trees that have already died, which we'll do with the site clearing. And then I believe, and Jeff, you can confirm this, but I do believe that the developer plans to utilize the construction entrance that they've come to an agreement with Burley Truck and Bus property to enter during construction it's on this side of the property. Just to reduce, the noise impact of the truck traffic, right adjacent to those neighbors above and the neighbors here below. Mhm. Maybe. Next slide. Perfect. Okay, thank you. So we understand, excuse me for a second. We understand that the neighborhood is primarily lower density housing. That is not lost on us. Our community is in great need of affordable rental housing, as probably many of you know, especially for our seniors who are looking to downsize, or who just can't afford those larger single detached dwellings anymore. So the province is pushing for more density in all of our settlement areas, including rural settlement areas. Our new official plan directs development to our built up areas. This is an otherwise unutilized or underutilized, let's say, because there is a dwelling on it. Parcel right in the middle of that designated growth area from both the provincial perspective and the county growth perspective. And that's based on the new official plan that was approved last week. It really only makes sense to kind of infill those vacant and underutilized parcels. You can also see that in the official plan, lots of the surrounding parcels are designated for future development. That's kind of where our little town is, proposed to grow over time. So as our kids start, flying the nest and trying to build a home and move somewhere close, we'd like to keep them here. So there are a number of other medium density properties. I did do kind of a walkabout. I'm also local. I just live over in Ennismore. My kids go to school in Bridgenorth. So I do know the area quite well from a planning perspective, but we did kind of walk the neighborhood, and there are a number of properties, a couple kind of up Man Road with that second unit that's permitted now, or even a third unit above a garage. And there's a couple different kind of fourplex buildings just on like East Communication Road heading up that way. So it's not like this is a new concept for the area. We've definitely designed the buildings and the site layout in a way to kind of fit nicely in amongst all of the other single detached houses. They're proposed to be 1 story. We're kind of using up the length of the property rather than having, a row of townhouses that along the frontage that just wouldn't really meet the character of the neighborhood. Yeah, and maintaining some of that vegetation, like I mentioned before, to reduce those impacts on the neighboring community that potentially has never had a neighbor in their backyard. To address some of the comments that we received about like wildlife and natural heritage features, we did do an extensive constraint exercise where we identified, the drainage patterns on the property. We did an investigation of the natural heritage systems mapping from the province and the county, and there's no significant woodland features or wetland features or anything like that on the property that had to be protected or a setback provided from. Most of the vegetation I mentioned is going to be maintained around that perimeter, and of course with every new development you have that new landscaping, and there will be some purposely planted vegetation and trees and shrubs and that kind of thing that'll go into the property eventually. Okay, so here's just a concept. There hasn't been a whole lot of I guess this is the only thing that's in the planning application at this point in time. It is still conceptual at the zoning stage. That being said, because there's no site plan control for this property or for this proposal, because it's less than 10 units, this will go straight to building permit stage. So there is still an opportunity once the zoning is approved to provide us some feedback, some input into both the planning department and the building department, as well as to us on in terms of like the layout and the building designs and that kind of thing. This is what we're going for. There on the left-hand side, right under the title, that is, it's actually like an AI rendering based on the architectural elevation there. and in the floor plan. And then on the right-hand side is actually a building that the developer has actually just recently built up in Buckhorn, down by the medical center. So this is the same type of style. Finishings, even the grade might be, it's maybe not quite so steep, but the grade at the rear there might be a little bit similar to that one as well. So yeah, so each unit will have about 420 square meters. Every unit will have the garage parking space, a parking space in front of the garage, before the street line aisle driveway. And then there'll also be flip back to there's also visitor parkings kind of between each of the buildings there you see. So that we are allocating lots of parking. 3 cars for a 1-bedroom apartment is lots in terms of parking, and even just us knowing that in a rural community, 1 bedroom can be a couple. So there's going to be usually 2 cars, maybe a kid visiting every once in a while. So that's kind of how we design the site. We have lots of room to work with. So if there's still parking concerns kind of beyond that, by all means, let us come talk to us and we can chat about that further. I mentioned the septic system. So there's 1 septic system for each triplex and 1 well for each triplex. All of those have been studied through the hydrological study to ensure that that's enough flow to service 3 units per triplex. And that it's not going to have any significant drawdown on any of the neighboring wells. So actually, I'll get into this in a little bit here. But there is high demand basically for this kind of housing, especially among seniors, especially in our rural neighborhoods. Our grandparents who are farmers don't necessarily want to move into downtown into a retirement community. And this type of development out here in our rural settlement areas is exactly what my mom, for example, would have been looking for. So it is kind of designed with that in mind. So the technical studies that were completed, so Per kind of went through these already. If anyone has any specific questions on these, I'm more than happy to go into more detail. Yeah. So do you want me to provide more detail? So I'll provide a little bit of detail at this point in time, but if you have more detailed questions, I do have the experts from DM Wills on the Zoom as well. If anyone has any more pointed technical questions that I can't necessarily get into. But for the site entrance assessment, this estimates the traffic from the 9 units. It looks at the road operation, driveway safety, and the sight lines at that new entrance. We even used a single detached dwelling trip rate instead of a multi-unit trip rate just to make sure that we were providing conservative assumptions for this type of traffic here. And it only estimated about 6 peak hour trips in the morning and 8 peak hour trips in the afternoon, which is really insignificant when you look at the level of county traffic on that road in our peak hours. So the original assessment was done in June 2021, and we did rerun those numbers when we added that kind of 3rd unit in December 2024. So we do have a more recent traffic count there, and the site entrance assessment's been reviewed again as well. The existing entrance, I mentioned this already. So the existing entrance, you guys have probably read into the report. The existing entrance didn't meet those sightline requirements. So the county requires 100 meters viewing basically in each direction. And so our traffic expert recommended that we relocate that entrance down to where you see it there on the site plan. So instead of being closer in the top 1/3 of the frontage, it's down in that lower portion. I think it's at about 40 meters to the southwest. And so, as I mentioned, the study concluded that traffic won't negatively have any impacts on County Road 18. And the study was reviewed by TranPlan, who is another local traffic expert, as well as by the County Engineering and Design Department. And no one had any initial or remaining concerns after our last technical review. So for the stormwater management report, probably going into more detail than necessary. But if people have questions, I can definitely cover more. So the stormwater management report maps the existing drainage and models the runoff from buildings and the parking areas. And it counts for those 100-year storms. So those big flood events, that's how we make sure that our new developments are going to withstand those big storms. It designs the controls to prevent the runoff, flooding, or polluted water from leaving the property, affecting neighbors, the roads, and any of the downstream systems like Chemung Lake. And then a detention basin, I explained that a little bit when we went through the site plan, the enhanced swells around the perimeter, an oil grit separator, and the controlled outlet into the storm sewer system there on the county road are proposed to treat that runoff and limit the post-peak flows to before what they are existing. So we call that a pre and post development analysis for stormwater. The hydrological report looks at the aquifers in the area. So it pumps each new well at a controlled rate, measures the water levels and the recovery time of each of those wells. And then it uses additional monitoring wells. In this case, we use monitoring wells on the existing property because it was so large, to assess whether or not those new wells will both meet the demand of the development, so all 9 units or 3 units each, and then without affecting wells, up and downstream there. So creating like significant drawdown. I think the most drawdown in the report mentioned was like 20 to 30% with a recovery rate and everything in there. So we also reviewed the MECP well records, the groundwater conditions, including the high groundwater, which was mentioned a couple times in some of the comments, which is relevant to, septic design, and the MECP records within 500 meters identified 127 private dwelling wells and then 3 commercial or public use wells. So each proposed well tested, 19 liters a minute, exceeding the 4.3 liters a minute required for the development. And then based on a 6-hour pump test and the observed aquifer conditions in the monitoring wells, there was no significant offsite well we don't anticipate any offsite well interference based on the results of those monitoring wells. For the servicing options report, it kind of summarizes all of this and puts it into layman's terms for us, and summarizes those field investigations, the technical reports, and the findings, and then explains how it's all going to fit together to service the development, what it's going to look like in terms of well, septic, grading, and drainage altogether. The report confirms that the site can be serviced without any adverse effects on the adjacent lands, each with the septic system designed for the 3,250 liters a day, which is under that 10,000 liter threshold for the entire property. The report concluded that there's no servicing or grading constraints that would prevent the 9-unit development that was selected. So in kind of to wrap some things up, and I'm happy to stick around and answer some questions. And again, we have our technical experts online as well that can speak to more of those pointed questions. So the proposed development is located on, I mentioned, like an otherwise underutilized parcel. It proposes intensification, yes, of permitted residential uses, which will hopefully help the township and county meet those provincial and county growth targets, and meet our, housing objectives. So it's our opinion that it can be adequately serviced based on the technical studies that were completed with the on-site well and septic systems. And we do believe that it's compatible with the surrounding residential neighborhood with the design of the buildings and layout proposed. I can go into more detail of the planning review, but it's all there in the planning justification report. I can pull out a couple highlights, most of them being that The province is really pushing for intensification of our existing built-up areas, accommodation through multi-unit housing such as this development, making, efficient use of our existing land, rounding out development, and using compact built forms and private on-site servicing and connections to existing infrastructure. This is close enough. The sidewalks in town extend all the way out to this property, so it's already connected in terms of active transportation. And then from the county official plan perspective, so the county designates Bridge North as a designated growth center. There's new residential development is supposed to be directed there instead of into our rural areas. The OP promotes a range and mix of housing types. So things like these smaller but multi-use, more affordable types of housing that include those kind of low and medium density housing. This is not high density development. This is 9 units on a 1 hectare parcel. The multi-residential development, is also usually directed along our main collector roads like County Road 18. Okay, so we recommend that council approve the zoning amendment. But we're of course happy to be here and completely understand that the bylaw won't be there won't be a decision made today. That'll likely be brought to the next council meeting so that we have an opportunity to address those questions and concerns and comments. And we're happy to work with township staff to draft those, formal responses to the public comments that we've received. And yeah, we're available for any other questions that the
Okay,
public
stick
may have.
around. Thank you very much.
Oh, I will.
I'm going to ask our planner, are we going to have presentations from each of these people that are on virtually, or are they only on to answer questions if questions are asked?
I'm not aware who's online. Is this members of the public or the engineering
No,
expertise?
told virtually, we have Chris Proctor from SWM Engineering.
So
Uh,
those are through you, sorry,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, sorry to interrupt. Those are the DM Wills experts that we've got online to help answer questions.
Okay.
So Chris Proctor
They're
Bennett.
not going to be making.
No, not
presentations.
additional.
Okay.
They can certainly come on screen and answer some of those more technical questions, but
Okay,
we have
good.
our
Bad.
stormwater management expert, our hydro-G experts, as well as our traffic expert online.
Okay, thank you very much. If you want to take a seat,
Sure.
because we have to go through a process here. I understand that the applicant, Mr. Cheshire, is here. Is there anything you want to add to the report that we received from our planner at this point? Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that is in favor of this application? All right. Is there anyone that is in opposition? Okay, so you probably haven't been to a public meeting before for a zoning bylaw change. The way it works is, take your turn going up to the microphone to ask your question. The questions will be answered to the best of their ability. If you have the same question that somebody already asked, I'd appreciate if you don't ask it. You don't need to hear the answer 3 different times. When you're asking your questions, would you please speak through me, the chair? And then I will pass it on to the people who should be answering the question. So who wants to start? When whoever goes up there, I want to have this for the record, your name and your address. So who wants to start? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Wendy Martin and I own the property at 1051 Ward Street. I have a few concerns. One, how are you going to monitor how many people are living in each unit? If it's a 1-bedroom apartment, are we going to expect 4, 5, 6 people living in there? Is there a basement? How are you going to control that?
Okay, we will get those questions. Is that the only question you have?
And I'm sure somebody else. will have.
Oh, okay. So, here,
Through Mayor Sennis, the municipality does not monitor the number of people that live inside of residential units in any case anywhere in the township.
someone else? A lot of people put their hand up. You gotta go to the microphone. Sir.
Mayor, my name's Jamie Grant. I live at 1292 Beavis Boulevard. The one question or of all the questions I have, the one statement I would like to clarify that the young lady presented, or she said that we have sidewalks up to basically where this complex is going to be. We have had conversation with the township because we can't even get the sidewalks cleared in the winter for snow because it's not technically a sidewalk. That basically the plows go down and they drop their blade, but in a snowstorm, those sidewalks are impassable in the wintertime, let alone if you have an elderly person or someone who's a little more unstable. So I take umbrage with what the young lady said about that. There are sidewalks up there. We've been told something totally different. My other issue obviously has to do with the driveway that will serve this. I was with the OPP for 32 years. This is the beginning of a dead man corner. You're on a 75 to 80 degree angle. We all know traffic increases in the summertime here. That's where we live. To say you have a survey done in December means nothing to me. Because in July, traffic increases, I don't know, tenfold. We sit on Beavis Boulevard trying to come out, and we're sitting there for a minute in the summertime when it's safe to actually access County Road 18. You're now moving this driveway where traffic that is northbound cannot see that driveway. And neither can the people that are exiting that driveway. Whether 100 meters is nothing when cars are going, let's be honest, 60, 70 kilometers an hour coming around that corner. Even faster coming into Bridge North because they're obviously coming down the hill. That is a major concern for me. It's going to be, in my opinion, a disaster waiting to happen. I'm not even going to get into the whole well issue because I'm sure there's other people, but those basically are my two concerns at this point.
Okay,
Thank
thank you very much. Would like to speak to that.
I can go over it just briefly and then you can follow up if you like. With regard to the sidewalk, I've sort of been made aware in recent days just through some email exchanges with the Kawartha Pine Ridge and our township Public Works Department. I think it's considered a winged road allowance. I think something to that effect is the terminology. And it would be in the jurisdiction of the county of Peterborough with regard to the provision of sidewalks at that location, right? I don't believe there's any plans in the immediate future to do so. With regard to the driveway location, all I can say is the road authority of jurisdiction is the county of Peterborough. We have had a site entrance assessment completed and the county has signed off on that particular location.
Thanks, Fair. Through Madam Mayor. I'd like to respond as well to the sidewalks. 100% just an observation. So this is exactly the kind of information that we're looking for from the neighborhood. So retract my statement. Absolutely. That seems like that would be an accessibility challenge. So I suggest, continue keep following up with the County Road Authority as the planner mentioned. And then in terms of the driveway, Mustafa, I believe, is available online. Can you speak to the angle question? So member of the public mentioned 75 to 80-degree angle on the corner. And then can you also speak to the traffic data that was used? So I understand that we use the Peterborough County data that's collected. I don't know when the actual data was collected from that, but our site visits were done in June initially in 2021. And the December was just rerunning based on updated data for the traveling road. So instead of using 5-year-old data, we wanted to use, you know, more up-to-date data for that in December.
Is Mustafa on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Through
Good
that-
afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so like a couple of things. We done the site visit in March 2022. And regarding the traffic data, we analyzed based on the rates from the dwelling units. As Amanda mentioned, we went to a worst case scenario, assuming it's a single detached, which is generates more traffic, and the results indicated like 6 and 8 trips during the peak hour. And this literally within the fluctuation of the normal traffic fluctuation of that road. So this amount of traffic will not cause any capacity issues. In terms of safety, for the collision records, we requested from the county collision records in 2022, and they indicated that there's no collisions happened within this entrance. And based on that, also we did a site visit to assess the sight lines. The old entrance or the existing entrance is not meeting the bylaws of the county of Peterborough. So that's why we moved the entrance to its new location to meet the 100 meters. And this is estimated based on the posted speed limit on that stretch of the road. Thank you.
So just to clarify, it's 50 kilometers the speed limit along that road.
Yes,
That way,
exactly.
if
On Ward Street?
understandable. Through the mayor, enforcement issues are of course not a development issue. And I appreciate that the neighborhood does have concerns about that.
Okay.
We hear you.
This is the reason why we're having this meeting.
We hear you.
Lonnie. Sir, so, you know, there are reasons that we go through this whole process. As the deputy warden with the county, I can tell you that Ward Street is going to be worked on. The reason that it hasn't been is, first of all, they were waiting to see what was going to happen with the causeway. Now the causeway's been done. They had intention of upgrading Ward Street to the way it should be. And the business owners asked us to please hold off for a year because they've been through so much construction. You know how long it took for the causeway to be worked on. And so we have respected their wishes, and Ward Street will be worked on. And although I won't be on county next term because I'm retiring, the deputy mayor hopefully should be there. We don't know. There's not been an election yet, but sidewalks are an issue and it's something that can be taken up. You know, it's a county decision as to what they do. So we'll that could be possibly done when Ward Street is worked on. Yes, got hands up here. Adam.
It's through Madam Mayor, just a point of clarification with respect to the sidewalks on the county. Sidewalks aren't the jurisdiction of the board here, so sidewalks are the responsibility of the township.
Oh.
Pave maintenance boulevard along the county road is quite common on the county roads. It is not a sidewalk by definition. They do wing it back, people do walk on it passively, we get that, but it definitely is not a sidewalk. Through the Ward Street project, we are looking at detailed design for extending the sidewalk up to East Communication Road on the east side of the road. That's part of that project. So we are trying to put some sidewalk where we can. Not in the books to extend it all the way up the corner at this point right now, but we are looking at extending.
So it's an opportune time to possibly get sidewalk even further along. But you would be doing in conjunction with the work that the county does, correct?
You are correct. As part of the Ward Street upgrades, we're looking to extend the sidewalk.
Okay, so I had it wrong. I knew we all pay for it anyway, whether it comes out of the county or the township, but yeah. No, but he's saying they're looking at possibly extending. Yeah. Yes, ma'am, your name and address.
Good afternoon. I'm Sharon Wilson, 1300B Uvis Boulevard. I have three areas of concerns, some of which we've touched on already, so I'm not going to belabor that. But just to mention regarding the traffic issue that's been brought up. It seems to be that the traffic study had a great emphasis on volume and of cars relating to how many units and how many expected people. Whereas the emphasis should have been on visibility. As Mr. Grant pointed out, it's a curve, line curve, whatever kind of curve you want to call it. It's tough to have good visibility there. So that's something that's a little bit lacking in the report, that they should have had more emphasis on that also. And I understand that they did create the new driveway. Also, however, the 50-kilometer posted speed limit, well, that's all well and good on the sign. That's not the reality. I've been here a number of years and that's definitely not the reality at all. Summertime, winter, it does not matter. Just to point out while I'm here, the Selwyn dump trucks are a big contributor to that. Those guys like to move. So these are things that are important. I don't know that anyone can address to that. They've already talked about that. So I'll carry on to the next. The water available, no, sorry, I'm going to jump right just because we touched on sidewalk. It did state in page 16 of the planning justification report, item 5.0 states, ... the development ... will be supported by accessible active transportation. There's no close by stops for accessible active transportation in existence at this time. Bridge North Library and Wilcox and Ward are the locations. So that doesn't jive with me. I'm reading one thing and the reality seems to be something else.
Are you referring to the link?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, they wouldn't put a stop in yet. It would happen at the time of.
well, that's an interesting point because if that's the case, and perhaps that might also apply to school bus stops potentially at that location. I was advised by older neighbors in my neighborhood that there was issue with Selwyn Township getting the school bus stop to be off 8th line and into our community. So it would have to be the same thing. So it was clear that that was unsafe. Yeah, for a while, about a year, kids were standing on 8th line waiting for the school bus. Not a good look. So that, along with having a potential link bus stop as well, right on there on a curve, it's just another element of danger to this location. It's not about development being bad and scrapped and NIMBYism at all. It's about let's do some work before the developments get approved. Let's make sure things are in place as they should be firstly. So that took care of my item 3. Item 2, water availability issue. Page 16 of the planning justification report. Item 5.0 states the development will not create any adverse impacts on surrounding land uses. In this example, we're going to consider that being existing wells. Can this be a certainty for landowners? What is the recourse to landowners, say in 1 month or 1 year's time, when there's a reduction, a negative impact on our wells? Is this our own expense to be able to remedy this problem? Again, things that should be thought of and considered before a development gets approved. The water demand as well, I'm a little concerned about. Maybe I can't do my numbers very well. Page 2 of servicing options report, item 2.2 states the anticipated average water demand is 2,700 liters per day. That's according to Appendix B. If I'm right in calculating the 450 is the per capita standard as stated in that report. If there's 9 units, 9 housing units, which I understand 3, 3, and 3. Someone can correct me if I've got that wrong. But that would be 450 times 9 housing units. That's not 2,700. So maybe I need a little clarification on Appendix B, but those are my main concerns.
Very much. Like to. All the questions you're asking, I can assure you, council members have those same questions too.
Oh, I'll sit down. Go ahead.
So I will direct some of the questions through the technical experts that are online. But in terms of the traffic study, so the traffic study is actually called a site entrance assessment. So the visibility was a main part of that assessment, and we definitely do look at the quantity of traffic. But there is an emphasis for sure on the visibility there as well, and the safety of that entrance. That was the requirement from the county that we provide. The second one, so the accessible and active transportation. So I'm not an expert for sure on active transportation, but active transportation usually means like walking and biking as well. It's not just transit. And there is a process to amend those transit stops. I believe it's still a pilot program, so all of those things are definitely processes that can be looked into in terms of increasing those transit opportunities at that end of town. Accessibility, I definitely take into consideration the sidewalks, and we'll take that back and see if there's anything that we can do to address that. Lindsay Tutors, or Ian Ames, are our Hydro-G experts online. Can we speak to the water availability question? So what is that certainty? What are the recourses? And then kind of explain that math Chris might be responding. Explain the math on how it's calculated, the usage based on each building, not necessarily the unit.
Yeah, certainly. You need. Is someone else going?
No, go ahead.
No. Yeah, sorry. Ian Ames here with DM Wills. I'm just getting a little bit of feedback in my microphone. Sorry. Yeah, so I co-authored the Hydro-G report for the proposed development. To take a step back and look at how we assessed whether or not that there was sufficient groundwater supply to support the development. We did do this in iterations. Most of our work was completed in May of 2023 and a bit prior in 2022, where we tested 2 of the wells in the property, which were installed at that time. We then went back after the development changed somewhat as far as the concept goes and retested a 3rd well. Now, when we do these tests, we want to essentially stress the aquifer or stress that portion of the subsurface that contains the groundwater and ensure that we're comfortable with the safety margin on the water supply for the development, and make sure that we're being ultra conservative in our estimations and our calculations. So what we actually did, and I know there's a bit of discrepancy maybe in the numbers, Sharon, and thank you for your questions that you provided. What we initially looked at was the anticipated daily flows for the 2 multi-unit buildings, and then we tested each well to be able to meet the entire demand for the development, not just the individual units. And we did the same thing in 2025. So we actually tested each well in surplus of the water that would be required to support the entire development on an individual basis. And during those tests, we also monitored the water levels in the neighboring wells, which are considered good proxies for adjacent land uses, which would be potable water supply. And we found very minimal impacts as a result of that pumping activity. So the available drawdown or the water that would be left in a well, pumping one well over here, and you got another well, observation well. As this one's drawing down, it obviously does have the possibility of impacting that neighboring well, but the drawdown was very minimal in those adjacent wells. So we're highly confident and comfortable with the safety margins on this property, and realize as well that the actual usage on the property is going to be much less than what we tested at. So we we stress tested these wells for 6 hours at a time at an excessive rate, and that won't be the real conditions on these wells. They'd be, pumped at, for peak periods, maybe in the morning and then evenings, but not in the same way that we stressed these individual wells. So I'm comfortable with that. Recourse, I'm not sure that's something the township can speak to as far as approving the development, as far as how that comes into play. I haven't been on a project where we have had to, based on our recommendations, kind of go back on that and address some sort of recourse issues. And I think it answers all of your questions, Sharon. Is there anything I'm missing?
No, you'll have to go to the
Come on over.
microphone
Oh,
because.
sorry.
Just to be clear, are we talking about the 700 liters per day in Appendix B? Is that regarding only 2 of the 3 housing units? Is that what
So
you're
the-
explaining?
Yeah, so the number that is in our hydrogeological report that summarizes the initial testing and the follow-on testing, we used a rate, I believe, of 9,750 liters per day for the development, and then we base our pump test for each well around that number, with the understanding that the actual demand is going to be much less than that because there's 3 wells.
Oh, I'm sorry, then I'm still unclear because this appendix states proposed domestic water demand. And you're telling me that it's going to be less, but the numbers on here reflect only 2 of the 3 units. So the proposed water demand should be more. It should be 450 per capita times 9 housing units.
Gotcha. I'll let Chris jump in because he has his hand up and he might be able to speak to that as far as where that discrepancy is.
Yeah, thanks for doing my job. Chris.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. The servicing options report was written by my department on the engineering side of it. So just to specifically point out the question that you had about where the 2,700 liters per day comes from. So that is 2,700 liters per day per townhouse. Each townhouse represents 3 units. We have an average density assumed of 2 persons per unit. So that 2,700 number would be for each well and for each septic system. That's what's included in Ian's report. Was done with that number as what we're anticipating the demand to be. As Ian had mentioned in his report, they modeled it or they tested it at a much higher rate than that.
Are we clear? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. There might be some other questions for these gentlemen because after we're done with the group here, council members might have some questions. So I hope you stick around.
Yeah, and so through the mayor too, before I take a seat again, we're happy to provide like a written response or have more of like an open house situation where we can go through the technical stuff a little bit more detail with you. So that's always an option too going
Stay
forward.
by the microphone, sir. You and and then, sir, you after.
Brian Watson, 1057 Ward Street. The neighboring wells that you monitor, what's the address for those wells? I was wondering if I'm privy to that information. I was just curious why no other members or any other of the community was asked to participate in this pump test. Because my well was replaced in June or in 2021 at a cost of $11,000 and change. And I'm really concerned about the water. So I'm just wondering why I wasn't asked to participate in 2 8-hour pump tests. Because you're saying neighboring wells were they his 2 properties? Because he also owns the one right next to me on the corner. And then the proposed new entrance. I'm just curious if somebody could tell me what these neighboring wells, who they were.
Sir,
Yes.
go ahead.
Thanks for your question, Brian. So when I said neighboring wells, I meant the wells that were neighboring on the property. So they're all, the ones I actually tested were all on the same property.
Okay.
Due to the distance between each of those 3 wells, we
Yeah.
consider them a good proxy for the neighboring property wells due to the distance away from the property. So we looked at the aquifer parameters or the parameters of the subsurface based on our pumping tests and essentially extrapolate that data to say, if we go out, 50 meters, 100 meters, this kind of impact that we would anticipate. So we did not test the neighboring wells. We tested all 3 wells on the property during each of the pump tests.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Martin. I too own the property at 1051 Ward. And so my question is, you said you did this pump test in May. Is that correct?
We did do the pump test in May, and then in September 2025, we did the other one, which was tested at an even higher rate in September. I get you the exact date, but the reason being was just timing. But essentially, we think obviously the May results would provide more favorable conditions because the groundwater is often higher after the snow melt. And in September, kind of August, July, August, September, we're seeing it often, in this area, lower water levels. So we did test under both sort of dry conditions as well as in an abundance of water.
Okay, because again, my concern is the same as the wells. Like there's been all kinds of problems with wells along that area. For 60 years, anybody in Bridgewater has been told you can't have multiple family dwellings because of the water. So until water came out here, and I don't know what's changed. But I do know in May I could have provided the whole town with water.
Mm-hmm.
Could have pumped it out of my basement. So I'd like to see the test done maybe in August. And maybe include some of the wells, like we're all right adjacent to this property, and that's our concern, is that we're gonna be on the hook to put new wells in or whatever.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? The microphone.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Jennings and I reside at 1300 Beavis Boulevard. Two questions. One for Mustafa, our esteemed traffic expert. Mustafa, how long does it take for a fully loaded tractor trailer traveling at 50 kilometers an hour to stop? And I'll say it in ultimate conditions, being dry pavement. Anything like rain, snow, or sleet, you can add 25%. I live and hear the engine brakes on a daily basis. I would challenge that anybody who's suggesting that you put that driveway where you're suggesting it, please, when you leave here, just go and sit by that driveway and watch. It'll only take a moment before a Selwyn or a Buckhorn Sand and Gravel or a Drain Brothers truck comes rolling around, and you just imagine now that there's a school bus stopped to let off kids, and I'm talking about a catastrophe. That cannot happen. It's insanity. In regards to recourse that didn't get addressed, to Mr. Buckhorn, Mr. Landlord, if one of your renters leaves the tap on and we run out of water, are we to expect that Buckhorn Sand and Gravel will be bringing a water truck by to refill us? That's recourse. For somebody to suggest that that be council's responsibility, that's nuts. What does council have to do with this? I come from the land of Woodbridge, where I'm all too familiar with developers. So streets with lights, sidewalks, these are some of the basics, a safe entrance in and out. 9 times 2 occupants, that's a minimum of 18 people coming and going. And yes, our backyard is on the other side of a little farm fence from this, and water does not know property boundaries. Thank you. Oh, Mustafa, please, I love the answer to that one.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to take the microphone? Just a moment. Mustafa, were you going to answer this question?
Okay, thanks for your question. I understand your concern that speeding is an issue here, and I totally agree with you, but that is not like speeding on the county route should be like revised by the county and do or put some countermeasures to reduce the speed, especially with trucks and having bus stops with kids around the corner. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Christopher Toms. I live at 1280 Beavis Boulevard. I think that everyone else has kind of covered everything for the most part, but there's a few things I wanted to add on. In regards to the wells, the gentleman who spoke, by his own admission, he did not test the surrounding wells in regards to where the new property is going to be. He cannot verify the impact on the wells of the existing citizens. It is impossible for him to do so without a proper study. Secondly, he is making the assumption that those buildings will have 2 people per unit. They also cannot guarantee that. Some may have 3, some may have 2, some may have 1, some may have 4. There has been no restrictions as far as I know as how many people are allowed to live in those units. So testing it at 2, I do not think is sufficient. I think they should assume there'll be more people than 2. Secondly, we've already kind of brought it up about the disputes. If there is a dispute over water, I also agree it doesn't make any sense for us to have to go to the township over it. I think that's avoiding responsibility by the developer. Secondly, in regards to the vehicles, there is the possibility up to 27 vehicles could be at those units. A test from 2021 does not account for a difference in traffic conditions for 5 years, nor does it account for the potential of 27 vehicles. I think that is inaccurate and should be redone in 2026, with the assumption there'd be 27 vehicles there at peak hours. There may not be, but there could be. Finally, I'd just like to address some final remarks. I think that the people of Bridge North are not to be served by this development. This is not a recommendation for subsidized housing to help the elderly or the future children. This is a business proposition. This is to make profits for the developer. It's obvious by the amount of people here. If this was to help the elderly, subsidized housing could have been proposed. It was not. I think that this is intellectually dishonest and emotionally manipulative for it to be presented as an option for those people. And I think most people here would agree with me. That's what I'd like to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Please take the microphone.
I'm Gary Hutz. I live at 1271 Man Road. I have a 1.89 acres. And I'm trying to picture 3 triplexes on my property. And to me, it's pretty tight. I think it's overdevelopment in this area, as outlined by many people today, in that particular area where you have to have an entrance. I've been in Bridge North. I played lacrosse here when I was a kid, when there was a bowl downtown. So I've been here a long time in Bridge North. And I, for one, am concerned about development in and around Bridge North. To me, it's a village and it should be kept as a little village. We don't need the pressure of the province or the county or anybody else to put an onus that we've got to build. This village is fine the way it is. You're already going to have to deal with the development of 38 houses soon by the sounds of it. So, you know, where's the infrastructure going to be for all this stuff? This just opens up Pandora's box, these 3 triplexes, as far as I'm concerned. And I for one, don't want to see it.
Let's begin. Is there anyone else who wants to speak in opposition? Is there anyone online, Madam Clerk? Oh. But to the question, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is JP Jean-Philippe Lambert, living at 1267 Man Road. I just want to say that if the purpose is for affordable housing, the calculus of two persons per unit does not make sense. So in the planning on each of the triplex, if I understood properly, and I don't have it in front of me, sorry, there's one of the 3 unit that's smaller, I believe. Is that the case? I'm addressing to the planners here or to the builders. And 1 or 2 are smaller. So I don't see how, if this is supposed to be affordable housing, how it's going to be 2 persons per unit to begin with. It's more geared for families. And in that case, could we reassess the water tests and redo the water test accordingly, thinking more, forward, thinking that more than 2 persons per unit would be living there. Number 1. Number 2, I understand business. I work with businesses. I understand, investments and all that. I've been working with businesses for 15 years. 3 triplexes is one thing. What if it was 1 house, 2 houses? I understand investment and return on investment. That's a great thing. We need this to make the economy roll, but 3 triplexes seems a bit abusive in my opinion. Not in that neighborhood, not with that entrance, not with that water table and wrong testing or inaccurate testing. Thank you.
Do you want to speak to that?
So through the mayor, in response to the affordable housing question, they're 1-bedroom unit. The intent is not to have a family live there. The affordable housing and accessible housing is meant to also describe the building form. So it's compact, it's small, which means rent would be smaller or less. That's kind of the logic there. And then in terms of the floor plan question, all the units have the exact same square footage.
Sir, you have to go to the microphone.
So each of the units have the same square footage, 9 times. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Again?
I just have a simple question. How much are we going to charge for each of these units anyway?
That's not part of this today. No, sorry. Madam Clerk, is there anyone online?
Yes, Corey Newman.
All right, and Corey Newman, would you like to give us your name and address and pose your question, sir?
Yeah, can you hear me okay, or?
I can.
Okay, yeah, I'm at 1277 Man Road. Name's Corey Newman. I think most of the stuff was already answered for me, everyone else before me, but I was on the Selwyn Fire Department Bridge North Hall for 4 years, and that corner is a deadly corner. I've been to a few calls there, and just having this entrance is a big concern, I would say. And that study definitely needs to be more looked at, especially when you said it was in June 2021, which I'm pretty sure was the provincial lockdown for COVID-19. So everyone was at home then, right? Take that into consideration. The water table, as others have said, it's just very vulnerable. It's Bridge North, and I bought here in 2012, and that was the main concern. Everyone telling me, oh, be careful your water table moving to Bridge North. And I mean, it's fine for me now, but this is a concern. And I don't know. I'd say pretty much everything else has been discussed. I'm in agreement with all the other people here. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
Great, thank you very much. Now, if there's no one else that wants to speak, I will bring it to council. Any questions? Yes. Yeah.
Through the mayor, I would like to just respond to that, the comment about the traffic. So there was no traffic count done in June 2021. That's when the site entrances were done. Site assessments. We use the county traffic data, which is typically done in peak periods in the middle of the summer.
All right, thank you. So I bring it to council. Are there any questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Brown.
Thank you, through Mayor Sennis. Thanks for the presentation, Amanda, and the extra questions. I have a few questions. You've used the terminology affordable housing a few times. Has Mr. Cheshire applied to CMHC for any affordable housing grants, or is this going to be market rent for these places?
I believe it's probably premature at this point. The zoning isn't even approved yet for these, for the development, but I suspect it'll be the market that'll drive the cost of these.
The cost of building today for market is considerably higher than affordable. You need grants. So there's no intention at this point of your knowledge that there is a request for grants to make it affordable housing. No? Okay, thank you. Question two for you. I noticed on the site plan, all the driveways are gravel at this point. Is paving going to be allowed? Consider water balancing on the property. It's a pretty tight property and you cover the gravel with asphalt. Does that affect the drainage plan?
Through the mayor, I'd like Chris Proctor, can you answer that question, please?
Yep, thank you. Just give me 2 seconds to scroll through to see what we assumed. So our stormwater management plan included modeling with the site continuing to be gravel. I don't believe that we had any provisions for it to be paved at some point in the future because that would add additional sort of flows to our stormwater management facility. So that's not something we've considered in our current design. It's potentially something we could add if it's of concern to council.
Thank you for that. So it certainly is a different picture with asphalt paving on that property as far as stormwater management. So unless there's provision in the bylaw to have it remain gravel, if there is potential for asphalt down the road, I think that study needs to be updated as well.
Here.
Through your worship, yeah, so zoning would not get into surfacing materials. There is some provisions in our site plan control regarding paving within settlement areas. However, as this is not subject to site plan control, those provisions would not apply. So it basically it's at the discretion of the developer.
I think it's important that we understand the impact of potentially asphalting all the driveways because it's a large amount of space and a lot of balancing on that property would certainly change. Okay. Have another question. You mentioned extra parking on the property. I don't see that on the proposed site plan. Where is the extra parking on the plan?
So through the mayor, so only 2 parking spaces are required per unit. There's 3 per unit shown on the plan.
One stacked and one side by side.
One in
One
the,
garage, 2 on the
yes,
driveway.
that's
You
correct,
mentioned
through the
that
mayor.
Parking. There, I don't see a provision on the lot for other parking for visitors, whatever. Is that going to be part of site plan at some time down the road, or? We certainly can't have people parking on the street.
So through the mayor, I'm not sure I understand your question. We have not provided more than 3 parking spaces per 1-bedroom unit. No.
Okay.
Consider parking.
No, you did mention in your presentation there was extra parking.
Yeah, so when we allocated the parking, so there's 2 parking spaces allocated for each unit, and there's a 3rd for each unit for visitor parking, extra parking. We've anticipated 2 people per unit, considering it's a 1-bedroom unit.
My last one, I might come back to one after though. There is a lot of concerns around the sight lines and I drive that way all the time. Is there a possibility of putting a street light at the corner again to improve certainly nighttime? I don't think there's anything there right now, but a street light again to illuminate the intersection better.
So through the mayor, that's something that's assessed through the traffic study. And the results of the traffic study didn't warrant a turning lane or a light at that point in time. But it would definitely be a county responsibility if that's something that council wanted to bring forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sanas. I am struggling with the sight lines here with the entrance and that there have been no The statement that there was no, traffic data that supported it or mentioned any accidents. 2023, I had to work with the school board and the OPP to reroute school buses because they were stopping right on that corner. We had a number of near misses in that situation and cars going in the ditch. So I definitely would question that. Lakefield's had the privilege of using a lot of our community's taxes to build infrastructure in preparation for expansion with Rays Creek in Lakefield. Bridge North is yet to reap those benefits as well. I'm aware that we have a traffic study and plan coming forward for Ward Street. But it sounds like that might even be short-sighted on maybe county, Selwyn, or the developers thinking, because right now Ward Street is only extending as far as Adam had mentioned, how with sidewalks, and to use the word accessibility or seniors. I know what it was like driving with my father as a senior, bloody nerve-wracking. And that corner is very, very dangerous. With the upcoming public information center that's being held in Bridge North on September 30th, is there any plans of communicating on infrastructure moving forward, or are we going to put the cart before the horse again in Bridge North and not have the infrastructure there to support that community, those that already live there?
Agreed. I don't believe I can answer that question. That's probably something best to be taken up with county.
Thank you. No, thank you. Sorry.
Councillor Boyko.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sennis. Yeah, 2 points. One, the sidewalk. We on council recall discussing sidewalks at great length 2 or 3 years ago, and we came up with a sidewalk policy saying that if there's any new road that is constructed, it will have a sidewalk. This is not a new road that is being constructed out to that point, but is still something that should be, I believe, considered in the construction of the Ward Street when it is done. Whether we want to undertake the additional expense in order to expand that sidewalk farther, that's a decision for another day, but it's a discussion that needs to happen, I believe. Second question, I don't know whether through you, Mayor, that I am asking our friend here or our friends here, but something that I know, Councillor Henry's brought up Lakefield South. The people of Lakefield have been talking a great deal about Lakefield South with respect to the degree to which it is going to change the nature and the character of the village. And I know that is a question that the people of Bridge North are asking as well, because the reason that people move to a place like Bridge North or remain in a place like Bridge North is because of its character. And so therefore there's great fear that certain developments will change the character of the place that is so loved. So my question therefore, and I don't know who I'm asking, maybe both of you, is the power or the purview of council to consider the character, the nature of a neighborhood or a community when deciding whether to support a zoning bylaw change or not support a bylaw change. Is it within the power of council to consider the nature of a neighborhood or community when making that decision?
That's the question.
That's one.
So I'll maybe start with one comment, and if you have anything to add, Amanda, generally the direction to council under the Planning Act is under Section 3 sub 5, that your decisions be consistent with the provincial planning statement and conform to any provincial plans within the area. There's no provincial plans anymore with the repeal of the provincial growth plan. Both my report and Amanda's report speak to the provincial planning statement. And that's generally where the buck stops in regard to where council is supposed to exercise discretion is that consistency with the provincial planning statement. With regard to character, there is some general provisions at the beginning under, I think it's Section 1 or Section 2. I'd have to check. There's been a lot of revisions to the Planning Act, right, in the last couple of years.
Which is why I asked the question.
I'd have to check to see if the Provincial Planning Act still has a reference that either the province or the planning authorities have regard for character. I would say as a planner from my seat, character has more to do with the broad land use classifications that are applicable, commercial, industrial, residential. So the character of Bridge North would be largely residential. This maintains that character. It's a residential character is being maintained. That would be the extent of what I would kind of say. I don't know if you want to add anything, Amanda.
Through the mayor, I don't have much to add, but I'll reiterate basically that the PPS does generally speak to character compatibility in impacts on surrounding land uses. So if I were council thinking about character, I would look at it in terms of those adverse impacts to surrounding neighborhoods. In terms of how we've tried to address character concerns in the development. So we've tried to keep the built form small, short. They're essentially supposed to look like individual, housing units. So that there's not a 2 or 3 story apartment building or something of that nature, or a full row of housing along the county road that wouldn't really fit with that character. We're not going to see that kind of row house look on the way out of town. So that's kind of how we tried to design the site so that those impacts and the impact to the character of the area is kind of accounted for in that design.
Thank you.
That's right.
Just one follow-up to Mayor Senes. Not so much a question, but a statement as we must separate character and integrity. Because character defines who you are, while integrity ensures your actions match your beliefs.
All right.
Thank you, through Mayor Senes. Just one last question, I promise. The water is the biggest issue, I think, here. I think I'm not dissuading or disrespecting anybody else's concerns around the occupancy and the road. But my biggest concern would be the water. I had a farm on the 7th line for 29 years. It had a dug well, 25-foot dug and about 30-foot drill below that. In the spring, I could touch the water, the groundwater. By this time, it was down about 20 feet. So that's the biggest question for me. I also lived in Woodland Acres in phase 1 when we ran out of water. And if you got up after 6:30 in the morning, you didn't get a shower until the city brought a 2-inch poly pipe from a fire hydrant on Hetherington to feed that community well, and we got water. And eventually the township had to give up an enormous amount of property to bring city water and sewers to Woodland Acres, gave up South Lily Lake Road, all of that Simon subdivision. So it is a big issue. There's no water. It's a problem. The other things I think we can work around and we can work to satisfy, but water is a big issue. So I read the reports. It wasn't clear to me that the water testing was done in the fall. And I think I heard Chris say that it was done in September of 2025, which we had a horrible drought last year. So the test was good in September of 2025. I feel pretty confident that the water levels would be okay, but can you confirm that testing was done in September of 2025?
Is Lindsay or Ian, can you answer that?
Yes, I can take that question. Thank you. So the initial tests, which were done on 2 of the wells, were done in May of 2023, and they were at a slightly lower pumping rate because the development hadn't expanded to 3 units at that point, but they were still conservative in the amount of water that we were testing at. The latter test was done actually in August. I just got a confirmation here, or correction, that it wasn't in September. It was August 29th of 2025, and that tested the 3rd well on the property. So part of our data is from the spring, and 1/3 of the data essentially is from, I guess, late summer.
Sorry, what was the delta in the difference in the volume liters per?
So actually the well that we tested in late August was the best producing well. So the results were very comparable as far as how that well interacted with the other 2 wells in the property. Those results were consistent between the tests. The only thing we did notice, and to your point about the water level dropping, is that the static water level in the well, so the water level that you measure, if you put a tape measure down, was about 6 feet lower in the August test versus the May test, which is to be expected. So as far as the available for water column in those wells, it's a fairly small portion of that because the wells were down about, I want to say about 60 feet or so. So, you know, about 10% lower, but the actual interaction between the wells when we did the tests were consistent between those two events.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a recommendation before us to receive all of what we have heard today and all the reports that are before us, and to defer our decision on the zoning bylaw amendment to a future date, following consideration of the public comments that we heard today, and to possibly do something with it. So I need someone to move that. Moved by Councilor Boyko, seconded by Councilman Henry, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to Richard Stiganga, and before we do that, I'm calling a bio break. 5 minutes. Yeah. Just seeing if we're online here. Are we? Okay. All right, so Richard Segenga, welcome back, and you're going to be talking about our audited financial statements for 2025.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here. I believe it's the third time I've been here since December, so that's a good sign. Yes, and so you probably heard this all before. Whether you remember it, that's a different story. So, but I'll just maybe highlight a few things for you as we go through the result of the audit and the financial results for the township. The end of December 2025. Overall, we conducted the audit starting.
That's the end of it. We're at the
All right.
end.
So, all right, good. And in summary, your staff did a fine job. Yes.
Oh, there.
Yeah. So we started the audit in June, and we were able to get through things very quickly thanks to the assistance of your staff. And then as a result, then here to present first off the summary of the independent auditors report, which is our report on the financial statements. The auditor's report remains the same in 2025. So the important paragraph we've highlighted here that in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township of Selwyn at December 31st, 2025, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So that's your clean, unqualified auditor's report. Keep in mind when it says consolidated, and the numbers we will look at include both the township operations and the library board as well. And as well too, it says in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards or PSAB, which is of course the required reporting format that the municipality must follow, which is different than how you budget. So I will try to highlight some of those differences as we go through. And as well too, a lot of that difference is related to the fact that PSAB may present a somewhat complicated statement in the fact that it puts all your funds together and presents everything as one, as opposed to breaking down operations, capital and reserve funds separately like you do internally. So that's some of the main differences there. Overall, next is the audit procedures we do to gather our evidence to produce our auditor's report, and they consistent from previous years. Overall, the audit is complete pending council's approval of the financial statements, as well as receipt of some legal letters, and you already received some of the documents from your staff, so that has been completed. There were no significant difficulties encountered during the audit. And as well too, there were no changes to any PSAB requirements like they were in 2023 for AROs or 2024 for building permits. Although those items remain, the hard work to get all that into your financial statements has been completed. So now it's a matter of just updating that. And there were no uncorrected differences at the end of the year, so which is a good sign. So everything was adjusted by your staff, either for whatever items we found, and they had already corrected or adjusted many of the items as well. So next we come to the financial results for the municipality. The slides present a 5-year history, and on the right hand side, the trend just gives you the 5-year graph for each line. Overall, for the township, your cash was down, but your investments were up. A small increase in those resources. Your receivables were down as in the prior year, you were owed some additional grant monies that you collected in 2025 for both transit and some ICIP funding, as well too with a little less capital going on at the end of the year. In 2025, your HST rebate was lower than the prior year. So in total, you have about $2.2 million in receivables. Your taxes receivable, there was actually a decrease in the amount outstanding, as well to the percentage of outstanding decreased to 7.1% of your total levy, down from 8.7 in 2024, which still puts you nicely below the 10% guideline for low risk that the ministry sets. So in total, you had about $29.4 million in total financial assets. Next we come to, who you owe money to, your financial liabilities. Overall with, less capital, going on at the end of 2025. Your payables were down compared to the prior year as well too. You had some, larger equipment purchase, payables at the end of 2024 that you didn't at 2025. So that's, explains most of the difference. In your payables, your deferred revenue, obligatory reserve funds. So these are monies that you've collected for both development charges and parkland that, you haven't spent in accordance with the requirements. So when you do, you'll be able to bring them into revenue. And the majority of that, for the township is in parkland fees of about 755,000. Your deferred revenue, other that represents, about $865,000 in OCIF funding that the province has provided you that you can utilize moving forward. There's some Ontario Trillium funding and, as well to building permits, about $183,000 deferred that when you complete the permits, that's when you will recognize the revenue. You've collected the cash for those as well. So it's similar to, both the parkland and the development charges. Once you do the work, you will recognize the revenue. Your long-term debt, in October of this year, that will be paid off for your, solar fit program, your asset retirement obligations. Back in 2023, that came in and introduced some additional items. In addition to the landfill, there's some asbestos obligations that the township has within their sewer mains for about 275,000. Your gravel pits, restoration of those about 1.1 million, and the majority of your asset retirement obligation of about 3.4 million is for your 2 landfills. And then as well too, you have your employee future benefits. And those are actuarially determined and just a slight increase year over year. So in total, you had about $12 million in total liabilities. And you can see there the 5-year trend on your net financial assets. So your financial assets less your liabilities, you can see you're still in a positive position. You can see in 2023 with the implementation of the AIOs, there was a slight dip, and then you've started to increase that again over the last 2 years. Your only reported non-financial asset is your tangible capital assets. So these are the assets that you have, like this building that you use to operate and provide services to the ratepayers and residents. So and you can see there was an increase year over year with your capital additions exceeding your amortization. And your total additions were about $4.7 million this year. And a lot of that invested in roads for projects you were doing, including Strickland Street work in Ennismore and sidewalks, and as well too the 6th line. And then your equipment involves a lot of that in relation to about with fire for about little over $900,000 for equipment, and then facilities include work done at the campgrounds was the majority of that, and as well as the prep work on the new floor for the Ennismore Arena. And you can see there the following slide gives you an idea of your additions to amortization over the last 5 years. Now we come to the what I consider to be the important slide of the deck. Showing your accumulated surplus within the financial statements, you'll see that the your accumulated surplus is showing $93.5 million, but 70 million of that is tied up in your tangible capital assets. Well, you don't have $93 million in the bank, so that's you've invested that in your capital, and as well too. There's some various departmental deficits that are highlighted here for both the community centers and as your treasurer made you aware in winter operations. And as well too, the one other item there is your unfunded landfill closure and post-closure liability. Of course, that sits there as an unfunded amount because you pay that each month when you pay those premiums. So it's just your reserve and your reserve funds. The lower part there, they went up about 900,000 to the $24.7 million. So that's the funds that you as a township have control over to utilize and move forward to complete your projects and tasks, and a lot of that ties into your asset management plan and your long-term capital plan. It was nice to see that did increase this year. The following slide gives you an idea of some changes between PSAB and your internal reporting. And as you can see, the main purpose of this slide is to show you that things do come back to zero. Within the PSAB budget, you are showing a surplus, but the impacts of both long-term debt and tangible capital assets and use of reserves and reserve funds impact everything. So every in the budget column, then with those adjustments, it does come to zero, and with transferring all your surpluses to reserves at the end of the year, so do the actuals. The following slide gives you an idea of your revenue and expenses over the last 5 years. You can see there in 2025, items are coming a little closer to being balanced out. And then the following slide gives you a detail of your of all your revenues. Slide coming directly out of the financial statements. Overall, you're slightly above budget in your total revenues this year. There were some variances, and although your provincial revenue was a little higher, a lot of that difference is caused by the additional grant you got for the storm cleanup. So you had to spend those costs first, so therefore about 400,000 of that difference is related to that. And then as well to your property taxation, your supplementaries were higher than budgeted. Your user charges represent fees that you collect. A lot of that, about $3 million, is in relation to water and sewer operations. And then as well to landfill permits and rents and concessions, as well as fees at the arenas and recreation areas. And I guess with your taxes receivable being a little higher at the start of the year than the previous years, your penalties and interest were up year over year. With the change in return on investments, your investment income was lower than budgeted. And then as well to utilize your development charges and your Canada Community Building Fund or your gas tax this year, giving you the stated revenue that's there. Next, your financial activities, looking at your expenses, where the money went. Overall, with some additional costs within transportation services in relation to the storm cleanup, additional winter control costs, as well as amortization have caused the variance there. And within environmental services, additional amortization and accretion costs. So the growth and the liability for the landfill asset retirement obligation explains that variance there, almost to the total amount of the difference. And then as well, planning and development, all areas within there were coming in below budget. So in total, you had about $23.4 million in total expenses. And then the following slide gives you an idea as to what they were spent on. And you can see there salaries and benefits coming in slightly under budget. And since you provide most of your services with your staff, that's why it's the largest percentage there. And then contracted services with the storm costs in that line causing that variance there, and as well with additional amortization. And the accretion on the landfill is all showing up in rent and financial, which explains the variance in that line. So, summary of where things ended off at the end of 2025.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Richard? Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you to your worship, Mayor Sanis. Transportation costs, budget 4.97 came in actual 5.92. I'm assuming that's winter, all those costs, or I'm not sure where that falls.
Yeah, so there were three main items within that line. Storm cleanup of about 360,000. additional amortization of 223,000, and winter control costs being higher than budgeted by about 280,000.
Yeah. Paula? With respect to, the final, accruals for, the, addition to reserve at the end of the year to balance. I can go to the statements to find, but it's 103,000 this year. It was 574, I think, last year.
Are you talking like,
Did your year end adjust, I mean, at zero,
yeah, I mean,
your adjustments, yeah.
yeah, in total, the net increase to your reserves was 900,000, so, as to the breakdown, I don't recollect the breakdown of that between regular operations and year-end surplus. I'm not sure that, the treasurer does. Okay, all right.
Okay. I'll try and find it if anybody has any other questions where I did find it, but I did find it in the statements.
All right. Councilor Boyko.
Thank you. I just have one question. It goes to financial activities revenues. And when I was looking at this on Sunday, I noticed investment income, which is substantially down. In our investment income at December 24 was just north of $1 million. And the actual at December, our budget was just over $1 million, but actual in December 2025 is 785. So I wouldn't expect that with the current stock market and everything else that's happening for that to be decreasing. So is there a reason why it decreased from north of $1 million to 785?
To you, Madam Mayor. In terms of our forecast and where we were looking in December when we pulled this together, our long-term investments are based on what's called a HISA, high interest savings account. So that fluctuates directly to the prime rate. So when prime decreased so significantly, then our HISA amount comes down that way. So we hit it a little harder than actually been material.
Is there an expectation that's going to be lower or higher this year? Or could you even guess at this point, Gino?
Yeah, I can't see it changing an awful lot based on, and if anything, the market rates are, well, they're low and they're looking at maybe cutting them again, right? So, yeah, that's going to be a challenge in terms of budget for sure. We were fortunate that we did, as Richard pointed out early on in the year, we had some higher penalties and interest. Like that. We are also pretty close to the wire at certain times of the year when we have to pay our levies and different things like that. So we are looking at internally financing 2 of our larger projects. So we have set those rates at about 3.5%. So that there's a little bit of rigidity, I guess, in that number because we're financing internally, so we know what the rate is ourselves. So that's up to camper and then on the floor.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? Thank you very much, Richard. Motion to receive the report. You will be asked after Wayne is done his report to approve it, but receive it at this point. Councilor Boyko, seconded by Councilor Kennedy, all in favor. That's thank you very much. And sorry for keeping me so long.
Well, thank you to your clerk for letting me set up next door, so I'll keep on working. So
There you
yeah.
go. Okay, thank you. And now I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, thank you, Madam Mayor. I really don't have too much to add to Richard's presentation. A few comments in the report. Definitely the new initiative that Baker Tilly started a few years ago with inflow and allowing clients to upload information at our leisure, basically. It's definitely helped our process. We've got it back on track again. So I appreciate the charter accountant's investment in that income stream, in terms of, if you will, because we're able to save some money and basically get it in there quicker. So I appreciate that. Finance department's definitely made significant progress in getting back on track after for a few years because of the the ARO and then, the stuff with building permit revenue and some of those different challenges. And then as we went through, later challenges as well in the department. So I think we're back on a good stead there and moving forward. And yeah, these statements are a really high level of consolidation. So I appreciate Richard going through that and going over that with council. Really, I don't have anything else to add. And with the recommendation before council, we would then move forward and prepare these statements to be posted on the council website.
If not, some is reported to black on paper, very much. All right, Madam Clerk, are there any questions posed?
No questions.
Very much. Now move on to our quarterly reports and Jennifer.
Thank you, and for you, Madam Mayor. We're happy to share our work plans. I'm just getting up to speed, of course, joined partway through the quarter, but there's lots of activity going on across all of the departments. Each manager has provided their updates and they are here to share those. We did have a few highlights that I've included in my covering report. Some exciting events like the completion of the inclusive playground, all the progress on the arena floor. We've had a number of good positive events and many more underway. So I won't continue on. I know we've been here a while, so I will just turn back over to you if there's any questions.
Okay, and I want to proceed the way we've been doing it in the past, where we go by each report by department. And I'll ask council members, are there any questions for the Chief Administrative Officer? Councilor Boykin.
Through you, Mayor Sennis, yes, I have one, and I think it's going to loop back to Lane. It says on the very first box bullet, procurement policy, and it says that the policy is complete, but then when we go to Lane's, it says the finance department to discuss new policies, procurement templates and procedures are not started. So is there a disconnect there, or it's just now that we've got the policy, the next step is to get the template and procedures in place and that will happen? Am I adjusting or interpreting that correctly?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, definitely. Yeah. So the policy, there's a lot of work. We brought it back and we revised it again, brought it before council, but all of those next steps, the procedures, how we deal with the templates, how we take a look at RFPs moving forward, that still needs to work forward.
Okay, and through you, Mayor, so that'll come back to council, or that's with the templates and how that's the nitty gritty of how it's actually going to, when the rubber hits the road, how it's going to work. Does that come back to council, or is that simply the staff implementing policy?
That would come back to council. That's just the procedure.
That's just implementing policy.
Get staffing in place in the proper way, then that supports the management team to do that.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to building and planning and I'll go to council first. I've got a question. Anybody else have one? Not to ask. I think Jennifer is the person I will ask on this. The official plan is finally been. And so we are going to have to do a zoning bylaw update. Can you give us an update on when the update might come?
We have a meeting among the staff, through you, sorry, a meeting tomorrow afternoon. So we're going to start into that. We're dusting off the RFP that have been originally drafted to look at the support that we'll need for making those updates. Staff are going through the approved OP and what the provincial changes were and any amendments or anywhere where they withheld their approval to make sure to see how that applies to us now that we have that in hand as of Friday. So we were surprised to see the timing on that. So we're getting ready, and we would expect it won't be too long, depending on what we see tomorrow for the updates to the RFP, but that should be ready to be on the street fairly short.
Okay, thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through Mayor Sennis. Just with the short-term rental complaints report. Thanks for the report. Looks like there's a few more complaints this year than last, and you got a summary down below which talks about the actual number of properties. Would it be could you put the number of properties in a separate column there? So unique properties, so we can see that it's 5 properties. It's 11 complaints, but it's 5 properties. I think when I read the bottom piece, right? Yeah, 5 properties you see. So we just include that in the table.
Robert.
Through you, Mayor Sennis, yeah, I'll update that formatting to better reflect that for ease of viewing. Thank you.
Councillor Blake.
Thank you very much, Marcellus, and through you. I was going to ask the same question about the same report, but my question is, I see the number of complaints and the complaints are going up, but could you tell us if you know, or if you can say, what actions have been taken as a result of these complaints? Are we getting the same complaint? I see the same property, but are we getting the same complaint over and over again? In other words, whatever action is being taken is not effective, or are some of the actions that are being taken as a result of the complaints effective, and therefore complaints on particular properties are dropping off?
Through Mayor Sennis, we have several properties on that list that have multiple complaints that are at various stages of enforcement. Enforcement in many situations can take many months. Just the nature of the process of enforcement involves providing notification that violations have been first notification that violations have reports have come in. Then our staff have to determine if the violations can be confirmed. If the violations are confirmed, then it's distributed to the appropriate staff to commence enforcement activities. That involves inspection, site attendance, research of files and histories, and then depending on the outcome of that, it's related to illegal construction and improper use of sewage systems. It's assigned that the building staff and orders will be placed on the properties, and then enforcement, the Building Code Act will be pursued if it's complaints with regard to noise or other nuisance violations, clean property bylaw or animal control bylaw. Follow up with pursuit of that animal control bylaw. The issues a little bit more tricky because by the time that the complaints come in, typically the animals belong gone, and it's difficult to verify any of those type of complaints. With noise complaints, we have commenced with proactive noise patrol on our most frequently complained on properties. So far, that hasn't resulted in any results at very expensive townships. And just without going into specifics, there's a lot of activity on a lot of different properties that
So the action is being taken on the properties that are most problematic. That's a good thing. And I think I asked this question before, but I want to ask it again. If the people who are making the complaints do as we suggest they do and call the police, then that would not get reflected in this report. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Sennis, if they follow up and submit a complaint form to us, it will get recorded. If we're able to verify that police attended or have an occurrence report, depending on the content of that police report, those ones would be generally for noise violations. We may proceed under our special inspection fee program for progressive enforcement if multiple violations occur. The obtaining of those occurrence reports can be problematic, as a lot of the population don't seem to want to pester the police for noise complaints.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for the, I don't know, corporate and community services? I have one. On page 3, remind me what this is. Tourism, Economic Development, GovStack subsite includes Focus, Lakeville, Marine and Canberra. I have no idea what that is.
Yep, through you, Sherry. I can answer that. So for the marina and the campground, we'd like to create a website that really is more focused on their operations. So it would really look like a standalone website, but it's hosted within our website. Okay, it's just GovStack is the company that hosts our website. So it's a subsite of our main website. And again, it's just to look at the marina and the campground as a separate entity. We're driving people there. We're driving visitors there. We want people to book online, that type of thing. So we'd like them to just go right to like a campground website or a marina website. So on the back end, it's a subsite, but from a user perspective, it just looks like a standalone website.
And but we haven't started.
That's correct.
Okay. Right, summary of action, Lakeville downtown fire recovery.
I'm sorry. Did you have a question about that?
No, I'm just asking, does anybody have a question here? No. Financial service, any question? Fire department, any question? Deputy Mayor
Yeah,
Pratt.
thank you, through Mayor. It looks like the numbers are settling down. There was a lot through the last two storms, the last couple of years, but things seem to be settling down with number of calls. Medical calls still seem to be a high percentage. Are you seeing any other further changes in the system of sending out the calls to get that number down a bit more?
Through you, Mayor. So yeah, it's things are kind of really good rate. So actually, Gwen just gave me the numbers actually right to today. We're 682, so we're significantly lower than the 819, and that's taking them out of group six. You know, so yeah, so yeah, medical calls are down, and the ones we're doing, seeing the ones we should be.
Thank you.
Human resources. Library services. And you guys getting off easy today?
I have a question for the library.
All right, Councillor Boyko.
Through you, Mayor Sanis, about the library report. It's good to see the circulation is still recovering from COVID. I know we can still say that after that many years, but the circulation is going up, which is great. But on that chart, I see yellow highlight and it says overdrive. What does that mean?
For you. Overdrive, I'm just looking here. Overdrive was our previous ebook platform. So the highlighted ones are just noting that that was when we still had that previous book platform. So we've since switched to Cloud Library and Hoopla. So I think, yeah, perhaps maybe not necessary at this point in time.
Okay.
Well, removing.
Good thing. I see it's 2019. It's a long time ago. It's just yellow highlight. This is something I should understand. Okay, thank you.
Parks and Rec.
Thank you, through Mayor Sanis. Question for Mike, update on Innsmore Waterfront Park. I know it's been a busy place, crazy place this spring. And we had some Trent students doing some work on the mapping and those sorts of things. Can you give us an update on where we're at with that?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. First, the mapping is continuing. We hope that in the fall, we'll be able to implement some of it so that then we can hone down the map and put up all the map signs. They were taken down when we started the process, although we did make some improvements, do a little bit of maintenance and close off the water, the wet sensitive area. Everything is in place. We got all of the items that were part of the build, except the signage at the accessible playground. It's had, as you probably saw, some articles and some newsreels. I didn't realize how many people I know that watch CHCH until after that one. And there was a triathlon this weekend, and it was really good exposure for those who hadn't been. By the exceptional grant writing, we were able to, and the incredible efforts of not just the committee, but also the community and the corporate community at large. There was surplus money, which meant paving of the parking lot, ensuring that there was more than 20 spots for them for accessibility. They've been busy or full every time I've been down there, and I go every second day.
Yeah.
I stop at the arena every morning and then go there every second day. So it's been extremely popular, which is great. Some of the people who live right there might not like it quite as much, but the feedback has been phenomenal. Rotary is actually having their mobile meeting there in 2 Mondays, just so they can, we've done it before where we did that, and they toured the trails with me. But this year they really want to have a look at the swings that we bought. It was about $6,000 accessible swing that we purchased for that. So sorry, Rotary purchased for that. So that's it's come together really nicely. We do have to have the opening, and with this many people, there's more than 100 people that contributed in some way. And certainly 6 to 8 that were major contributors. Getting them all scheduled at the same time is worse than herding cats.
Yeah.
And the signage is kind of the other piece that we're waiting on, because getting everybody respectfully acknowledged when you've got 100 names, size of it, location, alphabetical versus dollar figures. There was a lot of decisions that went into it, and I think we're ready now. So it looks like mid-September, which is kind of what we thought. Open for July 1st, which we met, and then grand opening in September. So that's kind of where we're looking. So
Thank you. Certainly a gem for the township, and you've raised the bar. We see even the city looking at putting one at the zoo now. So we set the tone and we set the bar. It's great for Sullivan Township.
Councillor Boycott.
Thank you through you, Mayor Sennis. Yes, I went with my granddaughter to the Ennismore Waterfront Park, and she played on the playground equipment. She said it's the coolest there ever is. So you've got that. But it was packed, and it was packed. The beach was packed. We walked on the trails. It was packed. There were people enjoying the secret garden. It's a gem. It's truly a gem. My questions are these. I have 3. One, the parking at the pickleball courts at Douglas Park. It says complete. Are they complete? I see there's a gravel roadway in, which is great, and the rocks are there and everything, but people are parking on the grass. Is that the way it's going to be, or will there be more gravel?
through you, Madam Mayor, I'm told by some of our senior staff, like Adam, who's been here for more than 40 years, that's the way it always was back then in the day. So that's what we tried to reinstate it, and it kept in keeping with, or it was in keeping with some of the people that were very sensitive to the environmental impact.
Right.
So the parking has worked out quite well. People are using it, but yes, it's one roadway so that it's very well defined, and then get off of that park in the various spots. So
And the park in the grass. Yeah, I've walked by there 3 times now, and there's still people parking on the road, but they'll eventually, I hope, utilize that parking space.
by volume, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, by volume, that might persist. Like if you're there on a Thursday or a Sunday when it's the 2 busiest pickleball times, we might have 32 to 40 people. We can't put 32 in that overflow. But we had a wedding or an event at every building except Neil's Pin this past weekend. And I'm told that it was absolutely full along on Sunday with the overflow, to the point where we're starting to think, well, maybe we could put out signage when the marshland is busy on a Sunday, when it's likely to be sunny, that it's reserved for them. They can park there. I didn't check with staff to see if people are persisting with parking on the island, because that was one of the big things that we wanted to get away from, because it blocks the access to the water treatment, it blocks all of that. So I will check with them. We have a barbecue with staff tomorrow, so I'll check with them.
It's a great addition to the park. My next two is the arena floor. I wonder if you have any, I'm going to ask you about the arena floor. If you any comments that you'd like to make on the progress of that. And the next question that you go right into if you wish, is we're into August now, our first year of running the campground. And I wonder if you want to make any comments on with respect to taking over the running of the campground this year. And anything you'd like to tell council about those two.
Through you, Madam Mayor, with the arena floor, we had a couple days setback this past week. One of the laser leveling devices for, you can imagine, an 8-foot rideable trowel. And that's how they finish the floor. And then there's usually 2 4-foot walk behind. Or now they're becoming like a drone and computer operated. Their major one went down with United Floor Finishes, who have done most of the arenas in this area certainly, and are commonly thought of as the best in the country. So we were hoping that the piece of equipment would come from the States in time, but we won't be pouring Thursday like we were planning. We'll be pouring on the 18th, Tuesday. The upside is there won't be any kids at camp anymore because that ends this week, so we don't have to worry about that. And it's on a day when there isn't major pickleball trying to park back there too. So a little bit of logistics, which is gonna be better. Every day matters. So does it make me lose a little bit of sleep? Absolutely. But there are curing techniques and additives that you can put in the concrete that allows you to stay 28 days is the common practice at curing and then get on the ice or get on the slab. There are methods, whether it's a wet cure or high speed binders that you can add into it that we're going to be taking advantage of because we don't have a full 28 days anymore.
So is there still the through you, Mayor, expectation that the schedule will be meet with the hockey and everything else that's starting up?
Yep, as of yesterday morning, they confirmed that they couldn't get the part piece in until at least Thursday midday, and we can't have 19 to 20 concrete trucks unbooked or on hold.
Yeah.
So it did get moved to Tuesday at that time. So yeah, that's a 3-4 day loss. So that does impact it, but we had a little bit of buffer still. So we're supposed to be open on the 12th of September at the very earliest. Our first scheduled ice is the 14th. So that's where we're still sticking with and so we're a bit over a month from then right now. We've probably seen some of the pictures and whatnot. It's 13.5 kilometers of pipe, more rebar and ties and things like that than you could imagine. And unfortunately, it's going to sit there for 3 days without much action because we're just waiting on the concrete to show up on Tuesday, which means that they're ahead on everything else, which is great. The last one I think was campground.
Campground.
So through you, Madam Mayor. We had some challenging seasonals and our staff committed to, and even told one of them, it's going to be our objective to see you smiling and coming in and making positive comments. And the one particular gentleman who was actually hoping to get hired part-time, but it just wasn't going to work out super well, came in and said, you know what? You've won me over already at the end of May. So Amy took a great deal of pride in doing that because it was not going to be likely that we'd win him over in the whole season. And he's been there for 30 years. It has gone very well. I don't have a good idea on the numbers yet. I know that we've had 5 sellout weekends, which was way more than they had. I think they had 2 last year with July and May was rainy last year. So that was in fairness, but I think they had July and August and we've had 5. The numbers, I don't want us to, I'm like Gord, I am a little more superstitious. I don't want to jinx anything here. I will get you the numbers, even if it's just preliminary to have a good idea what our sales look like. But anecdotally, I'm there all the time, and knowing that we had 5 sellout weekends, we were having a very good summer and have. I got to do my tour with our new CAO back on June the 17th or 18th, and I swear she thought I set it up. Because I'm coming rolling through and somebody waves their hand and stops me and said, I can't tell you enough how happy we are. This place is just like it used to be. It's fun to be here. People are having a great time and it's clean and it's just wonderful. And I swore that I didn't set that up. I didn't have anything to do that, but that's great to hear that sentiment. And I think, you know, through the council support to hire internal staff, we did exceptionally well. We've got 2 that want to come back again next year. Our only fear is with the incredible staff we've got, 6 months on to be tough to somebody else is going to likely see how wonderful they are as well. So that's kind of where we are. But yeah, all in all, very, very good summer so far, and we're you know, kind of officially halfway through that season. So
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for both
You're welcome.
updates.
I think it's thanks to good hires, and I think it's where it should be. We should be doing, shouldn't be leaving it to someone else. And so it sounds like it's a success story. Kudos to you and to everyone else that's involved. Any other questions for Parks and Rec? No? Public Works, any question? No? All right, so we have a recommendation to receive the work plan. Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councillor Boyko. All in favor, that is carried. Thank you. Now, Lane, you're going to hear about the 2026 second quarter financial.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report kind of, it tries to highlight any of the areas where council might look at the financials and have a concern. Just tries to answer those questions in advance of that. Just a reminder that this is in addition to the Q1 financial statement report that was provided to council. I don't really have a lot more detail to go through. I went through any of the variances in the report, or I chatted with the managers, and tried to take a look at, is there anything that we should be apprising council of? Sweeping is one of the ones I went through with Adam in great detail. That of course is a bit of a result of the long and difficult winter we've had with overhead control on his presentation. You know, with a lot more sand use and different things like that. So we obviously a lot more on the road, in that area. But definitely those costs are well in excess of what we had anticipated when we set the budget way back. Yeah. But available for the questions.
Okay, are there any questions? Not, I'm looking for someone to receive. Councillor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. Councillor, are there any things that you want pulled from the consent? Not, I'm looking for a motion to receive the ballot. Councillor Boyko moving, seconded by Councillor Henry, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Any other new and unfinished business? Not supposed to say that out loud. So I need a motion. Oh, wait a minute, before we do that. We have some bylaws, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. 66 to appoint the new manager of financial services treasurer. And 67 to appoint our new fire chief, Howard Jenkinson. 68 to appoint the compliance audit committee. And 69 is an authorizing bylaw for a merger agreement.
Councillor Henry, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. I need a motion to go into closed. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I think we'll also do a motion to extend curfew.
Yes, good idea. I have a motion to extend the curfew. We're going past our time. Councillor Boyko, Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. And did we do the motion for the close? No, stop. So. Moving on. Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councilor Boyko, all in favor, that's carried. All right. Adjourned to the other room. All right.